What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Drew IQ. Welcome to another episode of Winners Win Finance. Today we'll be talking about credits. I'll be giving my personal tips, how to improve your credit and the 5 different categories you need to know to kind of be aware of what you need to not do to make sure your credit score doesn't go down. Alright, and with that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, make sure to go ahead and leave a comment below for future videos, and let's get right into it. Alright guys, so the first thing we need to talk about when talking about credit is going to be how does FICO calculate your credit score? Now the most important factor is going to be the payment history. Are you paying your loans, your credit card payments on time, or are you paying them late? Now this is something I did early on. I think a lot of people, especially lower middle class, we do this a lot. We don't want to pay it, so we pay it late. We go spin it out and go buy a concert ticket instead and make a lot of dumb decisions. But this one is so important and is so very simple to follow. Just pay your bills on time. That is it. It's very simple. Don't procrastinate. Let things go to collections. And I know it's easier said than done. Being someone that might have money to pay these off. But I have been there, so I understand what it's like when you can't maybe pay your bills and they go to collections. But this being said, you still have to know this because it's going to be 35% of your credit score. So it's going to be a big deal. So pay your stuff on time. And let's move right on to the second thing we need to be worried about. Alright guys, so the second category we need to worry about when considering our credit score is going to be credit utilization. And this one is a huge one, especially when considering, some credit cards that maybe you don't really have a very large credit limit. So for example, if you get maybe a credit card and you have about $1,000 credit limit, meaning the max credit you can spend on this credit card, and say you spend all $1,000 that you can actually spend, then you have 100% credit utilization, meaning you're using every single credit dollar you have available, right? Very simple. So the goal here is to keep below 10% utilization. So the goal is if you have, that $1,000 credit limit that we said earlier, then you should go no higher than $100 because that would be 10% utilization. Now this is something that's very simple to follow, but many people break it. And I know this is something that my family did growing up, but we would always max out our credit cards and you would end up be paying interest, which is like crazy 27%. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And this is why people like Dave Ramsey are really against credit cards, because a lot of people do not have the discipline to just stay at that 10% utilization. Now, if this is you, just do not get a credit card at all. If it does take a lot of discipline to have a credit card, but I do believe anybody should have a credit card as long as you are disciplined and you don't go over that 10% credit card utilization. Now, there are some things you can do that we're going to be talking about more to kind of help with this. One thing that I'll just mention real quick is to increase your credit limit. So like I said earlier, maybe you get a card that doesn't have a high credit limit, so say 500, and that means you can only spend $100 and you're already over what is that, 20% utilization. So you really got to be careful when it comes down to cards with a very lower credit limit. So maybe you can call your bank after you have it for 6 months and ask for a higher credit limit increase, which makes it easier to not break that 10% utilization. Alright, so that's enough with that one. Let's go ahead and go to our third category. Alright guys, so that brings us to our third category of credit we're going to be talking about today, and that is the total length of credit history you have on file. This is going to be worth 15% of our total credit score, and really this is important because this shows lenders that we're an experienced, responsible borrower, and they're not afraid to get a loan, or we can actually get some leverage, and they're not really going to worry about us not making a payment because we have a strong, long history on file that they can reference. Now, something to consider here is that you need at least 9 years to have a perfect score for this specific credit category. And when it comes to this one specifically, you just need to get some type of credit on file ASAP. It's really just a matter of time. So if there's ever any reason to open up, a line of credit or to get a credit card, this is going to be the reason. Now, when it comes to this one of the big things to remember is to never close any credit cards, because what happens is if you have, let's say we have two different credit cards, for example. We have one with 4 years of credit history on file, and we have another one with 2 years credit history on file. The total average credit history is going to be 3 years. Now, say we close out the credit card that has 4 years on file, that is going to take our average down to say only 2 years now, because we only have that one credit card on file with 2 years. Now, this is going to bring down our total credit score, and it's going to hurt us. So we never want to close out any old credit cards. Even if you don't get any rewards or any cash back, just leave the card open, maybe buy some pizza or whatever at the gas station here or there, and just keep it open as much and as long as you can and never close it out. And that's pretty much it, for this category. So with that, let's go ahead and get on to our fourth category that we're going to be talking about today. Alright guys, so the fourth category of credit is going to be just, the credit mixture, the different types of credit you have on file. Like, do you have an auto loan? Do you have a credit card? Do you have a mortgage? And just how many different types of credit do you have on file? And this one is just as simple as that. It's going to be worth 10% of your total credit score. So not as big as a lot of these other categories, but still something to remember. Again, with this one, it's just going to be getting more and more different lines of credit. That's why I recommend getting multiple credit cards. You need about 21 different lines of credit just to get a perfect credit score. So, this is another one of those ones that you just want to get started early, start acquiring different lines of credit, getting different credit cards, because eventually you will need quite a bit if you want to get a perfect credit score eventually, like myself. So, yeah, this one is very simple, straightforward. Let's go ahead and get to our fifth category of credit. Alright guys, so the last category of credit that you're going to have to worry about is just going to be whenever you apply for new credit. This is going to be a loan worth 10% of your total credit score. And this is essentially just any hard inquiry. And what a hard inquiry is, whenever you go apply for a new credit card or when you go apply for a new loan, it's essentially going to just lower your score temporarily, but long term, it won't really matter too much. But what happens is lenders get a little concerned whenever you're, taking on a bunch of new credit, because they see it as high risk. Like, okay, like what's going on with this guy, right? Like, he's taking out a loan here, he's getting all these new credit cards, he's, just got a, like a new motorcycle, new car loan, this, that, whatever the case may be. But it just looks like a huge risk from a lot of these lenders out there. So from, this specific category, there's really not much to it. Just like the last one, it's pretty straightforward. Just know that whenever you are getting some new credit, it's going to temporarily hurt your credit score, but don't freak out. Just give it some time, your credit score will go back up. It's just, that initial hard inquiry, whenever you first go apply, it just looks like a risk, and that's all you need to know. Over time, do not worry about it. And that's all we got to know for the categories of credits. Now let's go ahead and talk about maybe some tips and tricks that you can, take into effect here and try and increase that credit ASAP. Alright guys, so when it comes to just improving your credit score and just maintaining a good credit score, let's go over just some simple things that we can keep in mind. First thing, do you even know your credit score? Have you looked it up? And what tool do you use? I personally use Credit Karma. I think it's great. None of these apps are going to be 100% accurate, but they're going to give you a very, very accurate representation of what your credit score should look like, and it's going to give you, some negatives to look and maybe places where you can improve. Now, this is the first thing that everybody needs to do when it comes about credit scores is download Credit Karma, get your credit reading, look at, their recommended ways to improve it. That's what I did. I learned I had some things in collections that I needed to take care of. And, collections is a whole nother topic we could get into, but I would just recommend paying those off. If you don't have money and it's expensive, maybe try, negotiating. You can call, whoever, reported you to collections and maybe negotiate. It doesn't always work, but you want to get rid of that as soon as possible. That's really going to hurt your credit score. I know it was huge on mine. I had like only 540 or something ridiculous because of all my collections. But also know if you just have something on collections for 7+ years, it will go away. So if this thing has been in collections for 6 years already, I would say just wait the extra year. You've already waited so long, why pay it off now? And that's going to be, the first couple things to really consider is, just run your Credit Karma score, start looking into collections, see if you owe any money there, and start getting those paid off. Okay, next thing. A lot of, beginners don't have enough credit to really, get a decent credit score. Now, one of the most, recommended tricks out there is going to be, credit piggybacking. Now, this is something, I taught, my little brothers, and essentially what you do is, I have a credit card and I'm going to make him an authorized user. And I'm not going to even give him a card to use. He's not going to spend any money. It's just going to be my spending, but he's going to be able to take credit for, anything that I spend on this card because he's an authorized user. So he's kind of piggybacking off of my spending on my credit card. And it's a very strong way that you can build up your credit, pretty fast, but you have to make sure that this person is very responsible. This person is going to pay their bills on time because, if they have high credit utilization, then that will also affect your credit score as well. So something to really think about, but it is a very, very powerful tool when used well. I think a lot of parents should do this with their kids, for example, and it's something that I think is extremely powerful, like I said, that you can take advantage of. Now, another thing that we need to talk about is going to be high balances. Okay, this is one that my family struggled with a lot, and this is what we talked about earlier with the credit utilization section. Just maxing out your credit cards, paying, the bills late, keeping high balances on all your cards. You're paying interest, which means you're paying like 27% more than you should be. And it gets just ridiculous and you just kind of get pinned in this little hole and it's hard to get out of. So one thing we're going to have to stress a lot today is just high balances. Keep those down. Try not to pay any bill late. Make sure you only spend what you actually have and you're not like just spending some money because you just want to spend money. And that was, a bad habit of mine. Make sure you're disciplined. This is very important when it comes to credit cards. Another thing that's really huge to discuss one more time, we brought up earlier, do not close any old accounts. And I think one of the last things I want to bring up is this thing called Experian Boost. Now, for people that pay their bills on time, for example their utility bills, you can use this thing called Experian Boost. Look it up. It's some extra money. But if you pay, your phone bill, you pay, your electric bill and other utility bills on time, this Experian Boost will add those, to be factored into your credit score. And so it's just going to be an extra tool that you can use to increase your credit score at a very fast rate. But yeah, that's about it for today's video. I'm not going to go into, too much into depth. I think I've already talked a lot of credit so far, and this was kind of meant to be more of a beginner, credit course, credit 101, how to fix your credit, what you need to know. And I don't want to give you too much, don't want to confuse y'all. So I hope this was very, very helpful. I spent a lot of time doing this. I know it doesn't look like much, but it was probably 8 hours of me doing takes here, trying to get the right content and everything very concise for y'all. So please, if you could, drop a like, subscribe, drop a comment recommending any future videos. I would really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to y'all later in the comments. Message me on Twitter and any social media as well. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here for the day, and y'all have a good rest of y'all's day as well. See y'all later.